You may be seated. The gospel comes from the gospel according to Luke, chapter 21, verses 5 to 19. You can find that on page 85 in your pew Bibles. Hear the word of the Lord. When some were speaking about the temple, how it was adorned with beautiful stones and gifts dedicated to God, he said, "As for these things that you see, the days will come when not one stone will be left upon another. All will be thrown down." They asked him, "Teacher, when will this be, and what will be the sign that it is about to take place?" And he said, "Beware that you are not led astray, for many will come in my name and say, 'I am he,' and the time is near. Do not go after them. When you hear of wars and insurrections, do not be terrified, for these things must take place first. But the end will not follow immediately." Then he said, "Nation will rise up against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be great earthquakes, and in various places famines and plagues, and there will be dreadful portents and great signs from above. But before all this occurs, they will arrest you and persecute you. They will hand you over to the synagogues and prisons, and you will be brought before kings and governors because of my name. This will give you an opportunity to testify. So make up your minds not to prepare your defense in advance. For I will give you words and a wisdom that none of your opponents will be able to withstand or contradict. You will be betrayed even by parents and brothers, by relatives and friends, and they will put some of you to death. You will be hated by all because of my name, but not a hair of your head will perish. By your endurance you will gain your souls." This ends the reading of the Lord. Just a few things to say. Just one, as the two little girls did an outstanding job reading, I thought. Those are some difficult words for the age that they are, and they did just really very, very well. So thank you for the teachers for preparing them so nicely. Okay. Just a short sermon today, because we have much to do, a lot to get ready for. For after all, it's coming upon Christmas. I told the early service that you can officially now put up your lights and turn them on. I think the official old time was the Saturday after Thanksgiving was when officially you could put up your lights and turn them on. Everyone says, it's getting earlier and earlier. But that's not because of us. That's the stores pressuring us to make it earlier and earlier. We don't have to go along if we don't want to. We can resist. And so you can put your lights on later, like the Saturday after Thanksgiving. And then you can keep them on until Epiphany, which is usually the first week of January. Oftentimes, Christmas Eve, I know that Glenn and Joan Schaefer, they take their lights down, their Christmas tree down the day after Christmas, and then get in their car and go to Florida. The rest of us, we can resist that. We can keep them up a little bit longer, at least get through Epiphany. The interesting thing about this story is it talks a little bit about endurance. Now, I know that sometimes the Christmas season feels like endurance, getting through all of the hardships of preparing for Christmas. And I know that Christmas preparation can even be dangerous to your health. Every year I see Black Friday shoppers, pictures of them with black eyes and bloody noses as someone beat them over the head with a Help Me Elmo, or whatever the latest toy of the year is. I remember seeing pictures long ago of people hitting each other with Cabbage Patch dolls. And Tickle Me Elmo, that's it. Beating each other up with boxes of Tickle Me Elmo. just a terrible thing. But endurance is also something that is found in our faith. Some of us have tried to work out. Have you ever worked out before? Like join a gym and go on one of those ellipticals? I know I've been on an elliptical before. And, you join the gym and initially you go every day. Go on the elliptical and you're like, after 5 minutes you're saying, how long have I been on this thing? That time has got to be wrong. It's more like half an hour. But in time, you gain some endurance. But the problem is that the problem with this is that sometimes your endurance, it's sort of like me when I'm in a buffet line. My eyes are always bigger than my stomach. And so I always get more food than I can possibly eat. Same with working out. You start 5 times a week, and then it gets down to 3 times a week. Then it's 2 times a week. Then it's 1 time a week. And then soon you're saying, when was the last time I went to the gym? I can't remember. Was it 5 weeks ago? Was it 4 weeks ago? And soon you're right back to where you started. Your endurance that may have been built up by going once a day or every other day is back down to nothing. Christian faith is at times about endurance as well. And sometimes we Presbyterians, we help you with the endurance by making our church experience difficult. We do. Presbyterians, we can make our Christian faith difficult. We don't have parking attendants, so you have to park where you can find a space. And last week, someone parked at a space, and they received a sign on their dashboard that had the terrible word in it, saying, "Why are you parking here? And don't use church as an excuse." So parking can be hard. And we Presbyterians, we make you do stuff, which can be very irritating. You hear this all the time. I have been an elder 20 times. Let me have a break. Or, I've been a deacon now for 6 years. Let someone else do it. And the problem is that we keep on coming back to the till. You've been a deacon 3 years. We don't care. 3 more. It's almost like punishment for being a Presbyterian. And we make things difficult by making you do stuff. And it can be really irritating to have to do stuff in church. I sometimes find it difficult too. You mean I have to stay here on a Build Sunday till 1 o'clock setting up Christmas trees? That's boring. Give me something else more fun to do. Sometimes our sermons can be long. 22 minutes is an awful long time to listen to a sermon, particularly if we don't have any special slideshows or videos, which we do on occasion. And sometimes our songs are long. Oh my gosh. Are there really 17 verses to some of these hymns? And we have to sing all of them? That can build up endurance as well. Sometimes when I complain or think about how difficult it is to be a Presbyterian, I start to think about how difficult it must be to be an Assyrian Christian in northern Iraq. Imagine for a moment waking up one Sunday morning in Mosul, Iraq, to find a group of black-clad individuals coming into your town and saying, you can't carry anything with you. You either have to convert to Islam or you need to walk into the desert towards the nearest town where there's safety. And we'll shoot at you while you're doing it, just to make things interesting. These individuals, these Assyrian Christians, were, many of them, wiped out. And the ones that made it to Erbil in northern Kurdistan, the capital of northern Kurdistan, they came as refugees and had to rely on the hospitality of others. Interestingly, when these individuals from Mosul, these Christian individuals from Mosul, made it to Erbil, one of the first things that they did was build a church. They gathered their limited resources, what little they had, and built a church where they could praise God, where they could praise God despite all of their hardship and all of their difficult challenges. Sometimes it's difficult to be a Presbyterian, but imagine being a Presbyterian in Iraq when you were asked to either die or keep your faith. I read somewhere in Pakistan, there was a woman who was a Christian who was accused of saying something bad about Muhammad and was convicted to die. Sometimes when I listen to a long sermon that's particularly boring, I think, boy, I'd rather have a boring sermon than to be imprisoned for my faith. Christianity at a time of Advent is a reminder that sometimes it takes a little bit of energy to be a Christian. I imagine Paul, at one time or another, was questioning whether it was wise to go on. Maybe after the 5th time in prison, maybe being beaten after the 10th time of being beaten and scourged. Maybe he thought, maybe it's my time to give up my Christianity. Or maybe he said, you know what, I've been a disciple long enough. Let someone else do it. But Christ calls us to endure. He doesn't call us to give up when hardship comes. He doesn't call us to turn our back when there's pain. He doesn't say, it's time to finish things. It's time to give up. He calls us to endure. I find it remarkable sometimes when people just give up their faith because something difficult happens to them. I'm impressed by Amber, who's walking there with Brooklyn. Last time she was here at church, she said, we've been pulled over 3 times getting to church by police officers. And I said, thinking to myself, maybe it's time to find a different church. But yet she drives up here from the south towns, right? Almost every Sunday, except when there was a blizzard down there. I think that's pretty remarkable. It shows some commitment. Today she probably didn't get a ticket because her husband is not here today, and he drives fast. But the thought of enduring, the thought of giving up something, the thought of sacrificing something for our faith can be foreign to us. But I want to remind you that on Advent, we should be ever mindful that for some, Christianity is not easy. In fact, it can end in death. We should be thankful that we can worship every day, that we can come into our church and celebrate God, that we can have communion, we can have baptism, that our children can have Sunday school. And when the going gets tough and you wake up one morning and you say, get up anyway. part of this community. Because I guarantee that all of us feel that. We all also feel the blessings of being part of a community, the love and the joy of watching a baptism, the celebration of weddings, and the mourning together of the lost loved one, the celebration of life and death. For us, Christians, that is something that we should never take for granted. We should cling to it and even endure suffering for it. Amen.